Hear my voice? Can you hear my voice? Okay. Let's start with what is mean by geospatial and how we can use this technology in life sciences, specifically ecology, environment science, conservation, and other things. But before that, I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving this opportunity, and I would also like to thank Dr. Amol Patwardhan for that particular entomology session I attended after 23 years, to be honest. So yeah, uh, what is GIS? So that's a brief agenda that we are going to talk today. So what is GIS? A brief overview, how things work. You can hear me, right? Just a moment. Okay, so as I said, what is a brief overview about GIS, its component, what kind of data that we use, then generic applications like overall applications, and then we'll talk about specific applications, some of the examples that I went through and found out. So yeah, what is GIS? So basically, GIS or geospatial goes by many names: location analytics, spatial science, geoenabling, and you name it. In simple terms, people don't know GIS, but they recognize one single term, that is Google Maps. So Google Maps is basically a foundation, kind of a basic, very basic level GIS that people use day by day. Or in other scientific term, it is also known as a science of where, because GIS is Geographic Information System. It is associated with a location, everything related to any location, and then presenting and doing some analysis of that location. So the question for everyone: have you heard GIS before? And if your answer is yes, then that's very good. If your answer is no, I have another question. Have you used GIS? And if your answer is yes, then again, that will make my life easier. But if it's no, then a couple of things. Have you used any of these? And if you're using any of these, especially Ola, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, Blinkit, then that means you are indirectly using GIS day by day in your day-to-day activity, as well as engaging with the GIS. So all these platforms that you're using, including Google Maps and Amazon Prime, eBay, the foundation of that is a GIS, or Geographic Information System, which basically gives a lot of different options. For example, on Ola or Uber, when you tap and put a location that where you want to go, it shows nearby taxis and your GPS location on the map. That's basically GIS. When the driver accept your location, accept your ride, and then it shows the closest and shortest path from your GPS location pickup point to the destination, that's also a GIS logic runs in the background. Same with the Google Maps. The traffic information on you see on the red, orange, yellow lines see on your map is basically a consolidated analysis based on traffic information. So that's GIS is everywhere. It's used in day-to-day life. Unknowingly, almost everyone use it in your day-to-day life. So let's talk about what exactly GIS means, or how it works. So it's basically a tool. It's called Geographic Information System. Geographic always links to a location, certain location, whether it is your location or a location of your study area or a location where you live or a real world. Then there is a layers of information associated with that location. And then there is that information has a lot of data inside into it. And that's how the whole system works. And that data can be in any form, like tabular data, reports, images, you name it, you have it. So when you think of a GIS, it could be like, I am giving a very broad overview, so don't get intimidated if you don't understand at this stage. But if you pursue your study like postgraduate level or some stage, especially in environment science, in conservation, in ecological management, and that kind of thing, you will encounter GIS at some stage anyway. And why, I will tell you shortly. So when you talk about GIS, this is basically GIS comprised of data, software. Data is basically whatever information that you collect for a particular location to do some analysis. A software, and very important part, that consolidates all that information, identifies different patterns, gives some outputs, some interface, some results, and some interpretation of that information. Obviously, hardware is basically support a computer or system that supports the software. People like you, me, and everyone who actually use all these things to interpret the data and generate some information and knowledge out of it. And finally, the methods, which are basically standardized procedures that used in the GIS. In terms of percentage, 80% of GIS is nothing but data, which you will encounter if you go into any research field. You will realize that your research is nothing but a data, and then 20% of time you will do using all these three things, all the other things, to interpret what data that you have. So same applies to GIS as well. So GIS can be very fancy, high-tech drones and 3D scanning and whatever, but ultimately it comes down to data itself. So when we talk about data, in the GIS term, it's two different types of data sets. One is called spatial data, and one is non-spatial data. Spatial data is basically when you turn on a GPS on your mobile device to find out where you are, you become a spatial data. So anything with a location information, like your latitude, longitude, or your postal address, that becomes a spatial data. So that information is very crucial in GIS, so that allows the system to know that where the data is collected on Earth, not just in Thane, Mumbai, Maharashtra, India, but where on Earth the information is collected. And then the second is non-spatial data, which is basically a tabular information. It could be anything. Literally, it could be an Excel report associated with, for example, if you are doing environmental monitoring or pollution monitoring of different sites, and you're collecting samples from, say, 10 different locations. So your 10 different locations are actually your spatial data. And all the laboratory analysis that you've done to find out various pollutants levels is become your non-spatial data. And when you combine that together, you get a comprehensive picture. And how is that? We'll come to that. So spatial data, it could be anything. I just give the example of your own GPS location on your mobile that you see on the Google Maps. Whereas a non-spatial data is basically anything that you associated with your location or your project area information. So how it works? So spatial data, in the GIS, the data is in the layers. So when you see a Google map, you see that at the very bottom or at the very base, there is a map of all the greens, blues, yellows that tells what land cover it is, whether it is a park, whether it is a water body, whether it is a building, On top of it, there is some, when you turned on the satellite image, it shows all the high resolution imagery of that particular area. On top of it, there are different layers. For example, hotels near you. So all the points and the names of the hotels near you, or a business near you, or a bus stand near you. So all those information forms a layer in the GIS. So as the picture suggests, in the GIS, the information is a multi-tier. So from the base to top, it has got a level of different information, and then you have an ability to select whichever information that you want and then use it for your research, or in the day-to-day life, like Google. When you search, if you in the Google map, if you search hotel near me, so it will scan and it will create, say, 5 kilometer or 2 kilometer distance buffer around your GPS location, and it will show all the hotels falling inside that buffer, so that you can walk to the nearest hotel, or you can go through and browse the menu and all the other things. So that's a broad concept of GIS. And then this is basically what I was talking, onion theory of Google Maps. So the central layer is your basic Google Map layer that you can see at the top bottom left corner. The map of London is your map of actual London, with the rivers, parks, roads, buildings. Whereas on the bottom right corner, you see the satellite imagery with some maps onto it, which actually shows which area are the parks, what are the navigable roads, building footprints, and other things. So this is how the information in the GIS is represented and used by the software. Next part, once you got all the data, so once you collected all this information, or once you got all the data, next comes the process part, which is a set of tools or different algorithms that software have, and it has got literally thousands of processes and algorithms, which allows you to run a lot of statistical analysis tools. For last few years, it's now incorporated a lot of AI, artificial intelligence based analysis tool, which is now, when an AI is integrated into a GIS, it's become a term called Geo AI, which is geolocation enabled AI. Or there is a lot of 3D and 2D analysis tools that allows you to measure or interpret a lot of information. An example that you can see that based on 3D topography data, satellite imagery, water data, you can actually extract and identify a wetland from the imagery. And then you can also tally that with ground truth, so that ground truth is very important. And then you can compare the results, what you identified through an automated process, as well as from a ground truth. And then you can use if it's, say, 95% accuracy, or more than 90% accuracy, and you have the statistical outcome has that much of confidence limit, then you can use the process to identify, or you can replicate the process to identify the wetlands in larger areas. So this is just an example, but this is basically the power of GIS, that you can see that it allows you to visualize, not only visualize, but allows you to extract meaningful information from whatever data you collected from the field, and then use the process again, recycle the process to do the same thing for a larger area without either a ground truth or minimal ground truth, because stage one you already covered that part. So and obviously there are multiple ways of doing it. You can use combination of tools, or you can use single tool, depending upon whatever type of analysis or interpretation that you want to do through GIS. A couple of examples I have given here. One is the bottom left corner, that you can see a crime rate mapping in the area. So based on the different crime occurrences within area, combine that with socio-economic data, researchers created this heat polygons that shows how the crime is propagating. Second is a route analysis, which I guess many of you have already used it in Google Maps. If you want to go from your home to somewhere else, or you've been to some different city, unknown city, and you want to go to a particular place from your hotel, you use Google Maps, you type the location, and Google Maps show you the fastest way or the way without with less traffic, and then you go through it. It will also show if the road has a tolls, or you have to pay something, FASTag or something. It also shows that, so that information is also incorporated. And at the bottom right corner, you can see that it's called a flood analysis. Basically, it shows a flood modeling. It shows how flood will propagate if, say, X a number of X millimeter of rainfall occur within certain amount of time, based on the slope, topography of the area, ground absorption rate, and other things, how the flood will occur. So kind of a future planning. So a lot of organizations use this kind of tool. Obviously, routing analysis is used by Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Blinkit. Pretty much everyone use this particular, the middle one, because their entire financial model is based on that. So these are just few tools I given, because I've been in the GIS for last 20 years, but I haven't used all the tools, to be honest. There are so many tools, and you will only use what is needed. But again, as I said, this GIS is becoming a mainstream day by day. So even if you didn't do a career in GIS, you will, in your future studies, if you go to the postgraduate level, especially at some stage, you will encounter these things. So where is GIS is used? GIS is basically used in fields that we as a common person can't even imagine. So these are just basic tools, basic fields that I know where the GIS is used. Obviously, environment monitoring, because I started from environment science as after my post graduation, so I know environment science heavily use GIS. Disaster management, agriculture, transportation, natural resource management, and things. But besides that, insurance companies also use GIS heavily. The big brands, when they open their outlets, they use GIS. When they want to open their brand outlet somewhere, for example, Apple, there is a lot of rush in Apple store yesterday in Mumbai. So when Apple opens a brand outlet, they will use the GIS in background to find out the optimal location to open their showroom, so that they will have maximum business. And to do that, they will go through a range of different layers, like socio-economic, accessibility, public transport, and crime rate, and you name it, and they will go through the unimaginable amount of information, and then throw that into a software or some solution that gives you probable location where they can open their showroom, so that it will generate maximum amount of revenue. So these are some of the fields, broadly speaking, where the GIS is used, and some of the actual example how the GIS is used in this field. For example, in environmental management, it's actually used for impact assessment. For example, if the natural disaster happens, for example, in recently I think it's this year or last year, a major landslide happened in Kerala, Wayanad. So ISRO actually used the GIS and satellite imagery analysis to understand how the landslide propagated and how it was impacted and why it was impacted. Public health, I will show a couple of examples how public health is actually using. We all saw that particular example, but I will explain that how it was working. Transport planning, as I said, route optimization, traffic management, Google Maps is the best example. Urban planning, when a new town or new locality is when government decide they want to establish a new location or something, they extensively use urban planning, land use analysis, like how the land will be utilized, where the facilities will be, and stuff like that. One of the good example is new Navi Mumbai new airport is happening, and that's basically used a lot of GIS in terms of planning and other things. Um, so these are some examples where the GIS is used. So like if you go to the back of previous slide, these are some known well-established fields where GIS is used. These are some of the examples within those particular fields, how the GIS is used. And then we will now move to the most exciting part, the actual applications and how the GIS is used in the ecology, conservation, and environmental science. So if you go to the life science, you will see like this is broad category of life science. So in that, if you see, from my knowledge so far, these are the fields where GIS is directly used. I 100% know that GIS is used in pretty much all these fields. I don't know about anatomy because I haven't dissected any animal for last 23 years. So I can't tell that whether GIS is used in anatomy. But I can definitely tell you that all these other fields, including life science as well as earth science, GIS is definitely used. So some of the examples, as I said, we all saw this particular thing 4 years ago. Not very good memories, but for as a GIS person, this was our kind of what you can say crowning glory kind of thing. This was run for three and a half years. This particular dashboard was run by John Hopkins University, and that basically made a lot of people aware what exactly coronavirus is, how it is spreading, and other things. When this solution that you are seeing on screen is entirely built in the GIS, and there is a lot of a process in the background that was pulling the data from different sources and creating a meaningful information, as you can see. And the reason they choose this particular approach is instead of showing Excel and tabular chart, those are not very impactful. Those are very good in numbers and reports, but if you want to convey the results, those Excel charts and tables are not very impactful. So they went into converting that into a location information and display into this way. So this is one of the best example of GIS in public health. This particular dashboard was retired, I think, late 2023, almost 3.5 years after first COVID coronavirus case was detected. And by that time, this particular dashboard was viewed almost 3.5 billion times. So that's one of the record in the world, that the way this technology is used. Obviously, it is not compared to Google Maps usage, but in 3 years, 3.5 billion times the viewership is quite astonishing. So you already saw these things. This thing is no longer available because they shut it down, I think last year or year before that, but it was quite cool. This was done by myself in New Zealand in the early days of COVID. So we used GIS and pulled the data published by Ministry of Health to see where the cases are coming. And basically, we ended up in identifying 2 flights coming from Emirates and Qatar Airways from Doha and Dubai, which was started COVID in New Zealand. And we ran some analysis based on the data published by Ministry of Health here, and then we published this data. It was obviously our side project. It was not an official project, but this particular thing gives a lot of insights to many people in New Zealand. This image, if you are into space astronomy kind of thing like me, this image is quite fascinating because this is not the left-hand side screen that you're seeing. The red, blue, green color is the terrain map or a topology or Earth ground map, but that ground is not on Earth, it's on the Mars. So 3 years ago when NASA American Space Agency landed a new rover, about a car-sized rover on Mars. So they use this map to identify the obstacles and other things to navigate that, to drive that thing on few million kilometers away on Mars. So GIS is not just used on Earth, it's also used on other planets as well by us. So get back to now from space, get back to the life sciences where the GIS is used. So in the life science itself, obviously, we have very broad spectrum of themes or subjects that we can go. But from more from the conservation, ecology, environmental science side, these are some broad categories where GIS is actively used, and I can confirm that GIS is used. As you can see, pollution, disaster management, biodiversity conservation, that's very important. I will show a couple of examples how it is using. Environmental impact assessment, water quality monitoring. I think some of the institutes in India are using water quality monitoring to monitor and do a modeling of pollution flow in the rivers, and to model how it is spreading and how it will spread, and things like that. Again, forest management, wetland management, you name it, and basically anything that is spread across a distance, the GIS is used for that. So let's dive into a couple of examples, a few examples that I came across and where the GIS is actively used. This is by Department of Environment and Forests and Government of Arunachal Pradesh. They actually started this study a few years ago. What they wanted to do is, because of a lot of activity happening in the northeast as well as in the eastern side of Bihar, and that they wanted to run wanted to identify a suitable site for wildlife conservation and other things. And how they did it? They use a lot of different information, as you can see, forest fire map, mines, because a lot of mines in that particular area, Jharkhand and other things. Then they use a lot of land features like human encroachment, roads, forests, and other things, that put that into a system which is basically a GIS, and run some analysis on top of it. And what they came out with a kind of a solution, not just solution, an interpretation of the information that they have, and that shows that, say, these are the tentative areas best suitable for, say, wildlife conservation, or if you want to declare these as a wildlife hotspot zones, or no encroachment zones, no development zones. So this is not a final picture, but this gives them a guidance or an indication where the potential areas are, which can be used, which can be declared as a suitable zones and other things. So quite interesting study. I will send the link afterwards. They use a lot of things, including satellite images as well. I don't found who done this study, but this is again in India, where they use 3D scanning data, which is basically called LiDAR, laser scanning data, which basically, if any one of you using an iPhone Pro, there is a 3D scanning sensor behind it, which and you can actually create a 3D model of anything, something similar, but much more powerful and much more accurate than that. And the forest department use this to, instead of manually surveying the trees for their health and their vigor and their state, they mounted the LiDAR on the drones, and then flew few times a year to see whether done the analysis based on the difference in the elevation and LiDAR point returns, and then found out whether the trees are healthy, they are growing or not growing, or they are not mature enough, and interpreted a lot of different parameters just by using a remotely sensed information. This one is from Council of Agricultural Research and Inland Fishery Institute. I think it's from the UP, somewhere in the UP. So again, this is fishery management approach. So instead of just doing ground sampling and other things, they also use a lot of other processes, as you can see, that actual species count, like they did random sampling across this particular reservoir zones, and then marked the location where they did the sampling. Use all the other data like water quality, water nutrient levels, plankton levels, and a lot of other things. I'm not going into details because that's too much of information for now. But then they have this different piece of information and they fed this into one single system. They also use some statistical softwares like R and Python, and run a few tests and few modeling and run few scenarios to see what the outcome that they get, and then ultimately they came up with this particular kind of interpretation of all the data that where the fish species are more diverse, because obviously the reservoir is fairly large, but they also found that species distribution is not uniform. In some areas it's far more, and obviously that correlated with certain aspects of the data that they collected, but then they have a ready-made picture in front of them, not just as a number in the Excel tables, but as a visual representation as well. So this is again quite interesting study. This is one of the studies done in University of Kashmir. Is basically they use land degradation vulnerability, which is use different socioeconomic and environmental parameters, as well as geographical test, geotechnical test, to identify the most vulnerable land for degradation, that include natural as well as human interference as a parameter, and the correlation between the two. So the reason for that the study was done is to submit this to the government so that government can put an action plan if something happens, or they can create a working plan to rehabilitate or to minimize the land degradation in Uttaranchal, Dehradun, on that kind of area, as well as near Ladakh and Kashmir, Jammu region as well. So in this case, again, as I said, a lot of different parameters are used, but ultimately one of the analytical tools that you use, not just GIS. I'm not saying GIS is the only tool they use. In most of the cases, GIS is a supporting tool that they use, but the outcomes that they receive, it's quite interesting, and it gives you a different picture of the whole thing. And finally, from the ecological side, that's my project. I'm handling this whole project from the GIS side. This is the project that I'm working on at the moment. It's a 7-kilometer long busway in Auckland, New Zealand, and we have dedicated a GIS application for the construction and planning for the whole project. But we also had to consider a lot of ecological aspects of the project, because as you can see, the bottom image is going, the busway is actually going through a eco-sensitive mangrove zone, which turns out to be a lizard habitat as well. And that lizard is not endangered, but it's on the watch list. So that means in order to get a permissions from Ministry of Environment and a lot of local government bodies, we have to submit a lot of things. We have to run a lot of analysis, and for that, ultimately the choice came down to GIS, because as you can see, the GIS gives us full comprehensive picture in terms of how those lizards or eco-sensitive zones are, and how we are putting measures to monitor our construction activity, refinement of design to do a minimal damage. Damage will happen and damage going to happen, but how the designs are changed to minimize that damage, and other things, so that environmental court will be happy and all those government agencies are happy to give us an approval. Obviously, approval is already given and we are building it, so a good outcome. Now let's move on to the conservation, because obviously our conference theme is ecology and conservation. So some of the wildlife conservation aspects of GIS that you can see. Habitat mapping is the most widely used. Migration route monitoring is another thing that heavily used in African countries, especially in all those national parks in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and in those areas where the migration happens. A lot of migration happens during the year, so they are using GIS in a way to monitor that migration and to see if there are any obstacles or things that will hamper the migration, or that will cause a lot of casualties of migrating animals, and they have a preemptive information nowadays, so that they act beforehand with the help of a lot of international agencies, and then they minimize the impact. Biodiversity hotspot analysis, again, the one site suitability study that we did, something similar that they use. This is especially been done heavily in the Amazon forest as well as in the African forest, so that areas which are not easily accessible, the samples are taken in the random places, only small areas, and based on that, a lot of information is interpreted. So these are some of the examples. Obviously, I'll share the slides with you. Don't worry about that. And from the wetlands perspective, especially, GIS is heavily used in the decision support and policy. Like if government is making policy and a lot of things, they need some information in terms of to do an informed decision, and that information comes from GIS analysis, reports, in satellite imagery, and other things. One of the things that I forgot to mention, that government of India, when we do our annual budget, especially for the agriculture sector and a lot of other sectors like defense, agricultural, disaster management, and financial support and everything, government of India heavily rely on ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, to use their satellite imagery, as well as not just present but a lot of like past imagery, to model the scenarios what the next year will be in terms of crop yield, natural disasters, rainfall patterns, and everything. And the budget has a significant impact of the GIS led analysis run by this organization. So you can think of the heavy impact of GIS on the government side as well. In conservation, one of the fascinating studies that Department of Forest in Mysore did was, obviously, you know that Mysore is the area of its land of elephants in the Karnataka. So they had recently they had a lot of human elephant interaction, and not just interactions, but fatalities of elephant because of struck by train or hit by a truck or something. So they run a lot of parameters, and they identified key corridors of elephants crossing the road and other things. And I think they came up with the conflict or incident zones hotspot, as you can see in the bottom right corner. And if I'm not wrong, they are working to ease out that conflict stress, by either creating a dedicated elephant corridors that will completely avoid human interaction or human interference, or it will take them away from a live traffic like a train or a major road. So I think they are working on that. But to do that, they need a lot of information, and then obviously GIS is a preferred tool that they use in this case. Next one is Punjab University study. I think it was 2000. I forgot when it was done. I think it's a couple of years old. But Punjab is again agricultural. Haryana, Punjab, those are fertile lands of India, as you can see. But soil loss is one of the biggest problems in those states, and not just soil loss. The fertile soil, the topsoil, the most fertile soil is losing rapidly over the year. So they identified. Uh, they went through a lot of different parameters. I'm not going into those different k values, c values, and things what they are, but they use a slope, soil quality, rainfall data, some ground sampling, soil testing units, and other things, and then they fed in, as well as the satellite imagery, and they fed through different systems. One of them was the GIS, and they run some analysis to come up with the soil loss estimation map, so that they will get an idea how the soil loss is happening percentage wise or the quality wise. And based on the intensity of soil loss, they also rank those districts where the most action needs to be taken, or the higher priority areas, because soil loss is significant in that area, and they present it to the government to do the mitigation measures. So that government can do awareness programs, can run work with the local farmers, local agricultural agencies, so that they can do a lot of mitigation activities on that. So in the life science, if you go on to this particular link, you will see that almost 1,000 different uses of GIS in the life science. I just briefly covered, I just scratched the surface, but there are more. Even something that I'm not aware of. I'm not saying I'm expert of all these things, but there are thousands of uses of GIS. And from my own example or my own experience, I started GIS in something like that because GIS was introduced to me as not even one paper, but part of paper in my during my master's in environment science. And then that's how I got interested to use the GIS in environment science. But then over the time, the focus shifted to go into the GIS completely, rather than be into environment science all the time. So why we use GIS? Obviously, from by now you will know that it provides not easiest, but a comprehensive way to answer difficult questions. Like if you got tons of different information, different level of information, GIS offers one of the best tools to consolidate and generate something meaningful and easy to understand, because that's one of the key. If you want to convince people to, the COVID dashboard is the best example, that if you want to convince people with the proper information, show them a picture rather than give them a lengthy paragraph to read. So that's how that's where the GIS shines. It's not just very powerful in analysis, but it's also a very powerful communication medium. So it gives you an opportunity to communicate what you want to communicate in the most efficient way. So bear that in mind when you are thinking of whether you want to use GIS or not. Spatial context, that means instead of a table that you can see, gives you some level of information, but on the right hand side you get the actual information, that how the groundwater stress is happening across the India. And that's where people will actually like, not just common people, but say authorities that you want to work with or you want to convince with for some actions, that's how they will engage with you. So now we are almost at the end of our session. So if you want to get started, it's not that difficult nowadays than it was in 2003 when I started working in GIS. So we have a lot of different online free courses. One of them is the University of Pennsylvania has one of the best online GIS education that's completely free. You don't need to even register for that. All these lectures are online with the practical materials and everything, so you can definitely use it. You can start learning by your own. There are like if you want to go to postgraduate level courses, universities do offer course. I don't know about Mumbai University at the moment. I haven't checked it, but Pune University, Symbiosis, and a lot of other Bharati Vidyapeeth in Pune, they have a postgraduate level, postgraduate diploma, as well as a master's level GIS courses as well. And even for now, say for example, I think in a previous session, someone want to do a research and other things. You can incorporate GIS aspect into your research if you are doing it for say ecology, pollution, and environmental science related stuff. So you can definitely incorporate. So you can identify the study areas where you can use GIS. So it's not that difficult nowadays. I will send the link. Don't worry about that. And then this is one of the biggest thing that happened in last couple of years, that government of India had an official national geospatial policy adopted in 2022. This was a very big milestone, because what that means is it's now a kind of a mandate by government of India to use GIS capabilities as much as possible, and that basically caused a boom in the GIS sector in India. There are a lot of startups that doing drone imagery, GIS data capture, and a lot of other good things in the last 2 to 3 years. But that what it means is many of government organizations now have a mandate to use geospatial capabilities. So that opens up a lot of other opportunities as well. So that's basically our session. I know I'm standing between you and your afternoon lunch, but if you have any questions, yes, feel free to ask, or you can throw at me later if you want to. So that's basically from the GIS in life science from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such an enriching session. You have shown us how technology, when blended with zoology, can create a revolutionary solution. And now we will open the floor for a quick question and answer session. Audience, this is your opportunity to engage with Dr. Kubzi. Anyone who wants to ask a question can come on the stage and feel free to ask.
Hi, Amit.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Thanks a lot for giving a nice presentation on a very complex topic, which is complex to us. I have a question kind of. What are the limitations of GIS?
So limitations are that's a good, very good question. So limitations are basically ultimately it's a system, or it's a software, or it's a dumb. It's very intelligent, but at the same time it's very dumb. So if your data is bad, your outcomes are bad. So it will, even if you use AI, you know that if you ask a dumb question to AI, it will give you a dumb answer. So it's a system. So everything depends upon what information that you have and how you use that, or how you clean that information before putting it into a GIS. And the second limitation from GIS is it gives you an answer, but it may not give you the best answer. So